Living alone as an older person can be peaceful and freeing, but it can also come with hidden traps that no one really talks about. In this video, we share 10 things to avoid when living alone as an older person, based on real-life stories and heartfelt lessons. These aren't the obvious tips you've heard 100 times. They're the quiet, everyday habits and mindsets that can slowly steal your joy, shrink your world, and make life feel smaller without you even realizing it. Number 1. Avoid turning every meal into a chore. Think about the last time you actually looked forward to a meal when it was just for you. I once knew a man named Carl, a retired carpenter in his early 70s who had been widowed for years. He could build anything with his hands, but put him in front of a stove and he looked like it might explode. After his wife passed, he stopped putting effort into meals. Crackers, peanut butter, whatever could be grabbed without cooking became his routine. One afternoon, I stopped by and found him spooning cold soup straight from the can. He grinned like it was no big deal, but I could see the weariness in that habit. Meals aren't just fuel. They're small daily ceremonies that remind you you're still living, not just getting through another day. I invited him over one afternoon to help me put up some shelves, and afterward I served grilled cheese, tomato soup, and a cold beer. Nothing fancy, but he paused, smiled, and said it felt like something again. That's the secret. Even if you're dining alone, use a proper plate, sit down, play some music. Light a candle just for yourself. If it feels silly, all the better. It means you're giving yourself the respect and joy you deserve. Because when food becomes joy again, even in the smallest ways, so does life. Number 2. Avoid making the TV your roommate. There's nothing wrong with loving your shows. I've got my own soft spot for old westerns, and I could watch Clint Eastwood squint all day. But there's a difference between enjoying television and letting it fill every empty space in your life. I went through a stretch where I left it on from morning until night, telling myself it was background noise. In reality, I was avoiding the silence. It's easy to let those familiar voices and predictable endings become your company. But that kind of company never asks you to move, to think, to truly live. You can lose hours without even noticing until the day fades and you realize you've done nothing but watch commercials for arthritis cream. What made the difference for me was treating TV like an event, not a constant companion. I do my morning routine, coffee, a short walk, maybe a crossword, before turning it on. And when I watched, I chose something I cared about and turned it off when it was over. At first, the silence after was strange. But soon that silence started to fill with humming, reading, even calling old friends. When you stop depending on the screen, you find you've still got your own story to write. Number 3. Don't let the front door become a wall. I think of my neighbor, Mrs. Doy, who's been in her little white house with the overgrown roses for decades. After her husband died, she stopped going outside. First it was the winter weather, then a sore knee, and eventually it just became routine to stay in. Groceries came to her door, medication arrived by mail, and she hardly needed to open the door at all. Months passed like that, and one day she joked that if not for the mailman, she wouldn't know the world still turned. The front door became a boundary instead of a bridge. But one spring morning, she opened it just to let the air in. She stepped out barefoot, felt the sun on her face, and a neighborhood kid rode past shouting a cheerful hello. That little moment was enough to bring a smile back to her face. Now she opens the door every morning, sometimes stepping outside, sometimes just leaning against the frame to breathe in the day. I started doing it too. Even if you don't go anywhere, opening the door is a reminder that the world is still out there, and you're still part of it. Number 4. Avoid saying I'm too old. There's a man named Eugene, 78 years old, living in New Mexico, who decided last year to try paddleboarding. Yes, paddleboarding, balancing on a board out on the lake. He saw others doing it and thought it looked peaceful. The first few times he fell in, lost his sunglasses, and probably swallowed half the lake, but he kept going back. Why? Because he wanted to feel something new. He told me he was old enough not to care what others thought, and young enough to give it a try. That's the truth we often forget. Saying you're too old is usually just fear wearing a disguise. It's the fear of looking silly, of being the oldest one in the room, of failing. But failing at something new is better than succeeding at doing nothing. I've met a woman who took up salsa dancing at 74 simply because her hips weren't ready to give up. As long as there's curiosity in your mind and a little rhythm in your bones, you're not done. New experiences don't have to be grand, they just have to be yours. Number 5. Don't let your bedroom become your universe. After retiring, I slowly migrated into my bedroom like a bear getting ready to hibernate. First, I brought in a TV, then a favorite chair, then snacks, books, even the remote for the ceiling fan. Before long, the rest of my home went unused. My living room gathered dust, my dining table became a resting spot for the cat, and I was living in a small, comfortable bubble. That's the danger when you live alone. You naturally stay where it's easiest, and without noticing, your world shrinks to a single space. But your home is more than one room. It's an extension of your spirit. I started making small changes, coffee in the kitchen, reading by the window, eating at the dining table again, folding laundry in the guest room while music played. Slowly, I moved back into the rest of my home. And with each little change, my energy seemed to expand too. Your bedroom should be a place for rest, not the center of your entire world. Save the snacks for the kitchen, open the curtains in other rooms, and let your living space reflect the life you're still living. Number 6. Don't assume routine equals boredom. People often think routine is what dulls life, like doing the same thing every day slowly squeezes out your spark. But routines can be the very thing that keeps your day steady. My Uncle Raymond, an old army man with a poet soul, woke up at the same time every morning for decades. He'd brush his teeth, make coffee, and then sit by the window to watch the birds for exactly 10 minutes. When I asked why, he said that no matter how chaotic life got, he could count on the birds and the coffee. That was his anchor. And that's the thing. Routine isn't about trapping yourself. It's about giving yourself a foundation to stand on. You can always add little twists to keep it fresh. Change the flavor of your tea. Listen to a different kind of music while cleaning, or write your shopping list with your non-dominant hand just for the challenge. A good routine doesn't kill joy. It makes room for it. Number 7. Don't ignore your reflection. It might sound silly, but there's something that happens when you stop truly looking at yourself in the mirror. I'm not talking about the quick glance when brushing your teeth. I mean actually seeing yourself the way you used to before heading out into the world. I knew a gentleman named Ari, who once had a twinkle in his eye and a mustache that looked like it belonged in an old film. He told me that the day he stopped looking in the mirror was the day he started disappearing. Over time, he shaved less often, wore whatever was easiest, and the liveliness in his eyes faded, not from age, but from neglecting his own presence. Living alone can make it tempting to stop caring about these things. After all, who's there to notice? But you should notice. Dressing well, combing your hair, even putting on your favorite earrings isn't about vanity. It's about dignity. It's a way of telling yourself that you still matter. Number 8. Avoid becoming the invisible neighbor. There was a man on my street, Mr. Howard, who had lived there for years, but might as well have been a ghost. He kept to himself, never waved, never joined neighborhood events. We all assumed he wanted to be left alone. Then one summer the power went out, and I decided to check on him. He opened the door in a bathrobe, flashlight in hand, and said I was the first person to knock in years. That stayed with me. It turned out he thought no one wanted to bother him, while we thought he didn't want company. Living alone can slowly turn you into a shadow in your own community. But every neighborhood needs its elders, its storytellers, and wise voices. You don't have to be best friends with everyone, but a wave, a smile, or a short chat with the mailman keeps you visible. You matter to your corner of the world, and it matters to see you in it. Number 9. Don't turn memories into a museum. Memories are treasures, but when your home becomes a shrine to the past, you risk getting stuck there. I once visited a woman named Maureen, whose home was filled with keepsakes, wedding photos, baby shoes, letters from decades ago. It was beautiful, but the air felt heavy, like time had stopped. She even had a room left exactly as her late husband had it, untouched for years. She admitted that it felt more like a museum than a home. We talked about what she'd do if she reclaimed that space, and she said she might turn it into a painting studio because she used to love watercolor. Slowly, she began changing it, keeping a few special items, storing or donating the rest. She made room for new moments without erasing the old ones. Your history deserves to be honored, but it shouldn't keep you from living the next chapter. Memories are meant to be carried forward, not locked away. Number 10. Avoid thinking you've finished growing. One of the biggest myths about aging is that the adventures are over, that from here on, it's just maintenance. I've met people who prove that wrong every day. Clarence, at 82, started learning French just to surprise his daughter-in-law at Christmas. He didn't get every word right, but the look on her face made every lesson worth it. Eileen, at 77, picked up an iPad and began creating digital art, saying it felt like having a brand new box of crayons. Growth isn't reserved for the young. It's for anyone willing to keep exploring. Sometimes it's not about big changes, but small sparks of curiosity that keep you looking forward. The moment you believe there's nothing left to learn or try is the moment life starts to feel smaller. But if you keep seeking out new ways to laugh, to create, to connect, you remain not just alive, but truly living. Living alone doesn't have to mean living less. You can still make your meals a joy, keep the TV from taking over, open your front door to the world, try something you've never done before, and keep every room in your home alive with use. You can keep routines that ground you, maintain pride in how you show up for yourself, stay visible to your neighbors, balance your past with a space for new memories, and keep growing no matter your age. You are still in the game, still needed, and still capable of surprising even yourself.